So today's session is on another one in our series of masterclasses called Think Like, and it's called Think Like a Partner. Now, some of you may be thinking, why is this important, or why are you even invited in the first place? Some of you may be thinking कि मैं तो consulting domain में भी नहीं हूँ. I am more of a designer, a writer, a creative person, or um, I'm in accounts function, or I'm in finance, HR, marketing. Doesn't matter, right? We're only asking you to think like one, right? And how it can really benefit the way you approach your work, because a partner is again nothing but a leader in a setup which is very consulting oriented, and it might allow you to really approach your projects very differently. And one of the reasons it is for the mid-level, if you see a lot of mid-level people here, and other than Atul, of course, who's here, and I'm hopeful that he's going to share his knowledge as well today. One of the reasons we wanted to invite the middle management of BOD for this session is because if you ever aspire to be a leader, which I'm sure you all of do, uh, you have to first start thinking like one. You can't become a leader by a number of years of experience and hoping that you will get a promotion one day. You just start thinking like one. You start behaving like one. You start acting like one, and suddenly one fine day people accept you as a leader. It's really funny and that simple, right? It's something that I have practiced a lot in my life, and I thought I'll just share some thoughts with you as well. But this is not so much about my journey. This is about how thinking like a partner can dramatically impact your ability to create a difference to the kind of work you do every day, right? So let me, without much ado, share my slides with you and take you through some ideas, some thoughts. Again, we'll keep this very interactive. The idea is to share as well. I mean, of course, not just me, but all of you have the ability to share. So here we go. Let me know if the slides are visible.
Yes, they
It
are.
is.
Okay. So only three main topics and not too heavy slides. So just a role of partner at BOD, just to understand the big picture here, right? And because the creative team is also here, so just want to share that whether the title is partner, vice president, director, it doesn't matter. It's the same context, right? So think of yourself as a design partner, think of yourself as a content partner, think of yourself as a UX partner. A partner is someone who's a leader, right? And all we're asking you is to think like one when you're trying to advise your clients and work with them, right? And then I'll talk a little bit about the 5 key tenets, of a partner. So think of it like a little bit of a philosophy, but very useful if you remember this philosophy. And then a little bit about where you can start. So sometimes we understand the theory of something, but we don't really know where to begin and how to really get going with it. But one thing I can tell you is that this is really step one into your journey of becoming a leader. There is a more structured leadership development program under design for all of you, but treat it like a bit of a boot camp, just to get familiar with the idea of how leadership really works, right? So let's begin. So what do you think is the role of a partner at BOD? Can anyone share their thoughts? What is a partner supposed to do, according to you? You can unmute yourself. Yeah, Somil, go ahead.
So from what I understand, the role of a partner is to like take leadership of a particular project or a client engagement, and that is one aspect where there might be some substructure to it, where there are people who are working on a particular set of deliverables. And the second thing could also be something related to the financial aspect, which could be maintaining profitability and ensuring that it's sort of a good relationship, both deliverable wise as well as money wise, for the client with whom we are working. It may also come down to ensuring that it is smooth in nature, so that if there are any bottlenecks or if there are any conflicts which happen, sort of taking the last call in any major decision point which may come during the execution of the project.
Sure. No, thanks a
From
lot.
my experience, what I have seen in my projects is key partners mostly help in maintaining an overall direction of the project, and in terms of like monthly cadence is where I have seen the involvement in the projects that I have worked on.
Okay. Maintaining the overall direction, leadership,
I would
control.
A monthly cadence mostly.
I would go one step back. I mean, it's hard. I would go one step before Somil, for example. I mean, it's the job of a partner to be able to have the firm's goals in mind and accordingly plan new business development.
Mhm.
And as the word implies, once you get the client, the word partner involves partnerships. How you forge partnerships with not just your client, but with your own teams that you've built to complete a project or the desired outcome at a profit. In a nutshell, that's how I would look at it.
Thanks a lot, Atul. I think that's very well described, very well articulated. Anybody else like to share their thoughts of what it might mean to be a partner? What is the role of a partner at BOD?
In comment section, people have added their views.
In comment section.
Chat.
Yeah, chat box.
I can't see anything.
And a Karan Nikar to guide. Sona is saying, I feel it's to nurture relation skills teams. Arpit has said, providing a canvas on which rest of the team can thrive. Sanjay is saying, BOD brand ambassador.
I see. Great. I can't see the chat at all. Thanks, Atul. Some problem with my Zoom, I guess. Yeah. But that's helpful. Yeah. All of you are absolutely right in your description. And I also have been thinking about all of these points, right, when trying to put together a couple of slides. But I really zeroed down on, a few ideas which I want to share. Right. So, how many of you are familiar with Star Wars, right? Pretty much everyone, right? Koi aisa hai jisne nahi dekha?
I haven't watched.
Sorry?
I haven't watched.
कोई बात नहीं, मैंने भी नहीं देखा. Yeah, but it's okay, right? But the important thing is that sometimes you know the characters, but you haven't watched the movie or the series or right. But this guy is a fairly popular character, Yoda. Can anybody speak about him? ये सारे, एक तो पहली बात, ये सारे हॉलीवुड मूवी वाले ना इंडिया से इंस्पायर्ड होते हैं. योदा को योडा कर देंगे and things like that. But Karan, you have a smile. Who's Yoda? I'm sure you watched it. I'm just guessing. I may be wrong.
No, Saurabh, I haven't watched it, but lately I've been doing reruns of The Big Bang Theory.
I
So
see.
the characters in that show are very obsessed with Star Wars, and it sparked a whole revolution in a generation when sci-fi and fantasy were completely alien as concepts. So I think it became very quickly that cultural revolution that we could really think beyond our worlds and ourselves, and ultimately find how significant or less significant we are in the larger scheme of things. So Yoda is the person who brings that worldly wisdom to the characters in the film and the show, is what I have a faint idea about.
Okay. Anybody else who's a bit more deeper involved in Star Wars? करण का रिस्पॉन्स एकदम पार्टनर टाइप का है कि मालूम नहीं है टॉपिक के बारे में लेकिन कुछ बता देंगे. So he's already in that partner mode.
So in Star Wars, I have seen the 3 movies. Yoda is essentially the character who helps the protagonist awaken the Force, which is this magical entity in the universe of Star Wars. And so he's the mentor who helps the protagonist reach his true potential, essentially, and guide it. So that is how it's
It's
structured.
basically like Krishna to Arjun.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
कृष्णा टू वेरी वेल सेड यार वो सब कुछ कॉपीड है इंडिया से मुझे मालूम था ऐसे कुछ होगा राइट बट आई नो वी आर वेरी ऑब्सेस्ड अबाउट इंडिया राइट सो वी ऑलवेज थिंक एवरीथिंग इज कॉपीड फ्रॉम इंडिया सो
It was Yoda was a mixture of like from Asian mythology, right? Ancient. So इसमें थोड़ा वो Chinese mythology का भी है जिसमें वो शिफूज और वो सब होते थे. So the characteristics, physical characteristics are from those shifus, and overall the idea is again जो कृष्णा वाला है महाभारत.
way wala hai, right? So if you also see his picture over here, you know, if you notice carefully, बड़े बड़े कान हैं और बड़े ये कैरेक्टर्स बड़े सोच समझ के बनाए जाते हैं ये यू नो उसके जिस तरीके से सफेद बाल पहले से हुए हैं टिपिकल वाइज मैन बिग लार्ज आईज बट almost in meditative pose and that perfect smile, no stress, right? So and hands also body language is like, Hanji, batao ji, kya problem hai? Right. So more of like that, and of course not so pretty, right? So a short, fairly ugly character, but still you gain a lot of confidence when you look at him, right? So and of course they help awaken the force within you, right? That's their primary role. So that's what a Yoda is supposed to do, right? That's what he did to Luke and I don't know a couple of other characters. बहुत ज्यादा तो मैंने नहीं देखा है but थोड़ा बहुत idea है. So partner is a little bit like that, you know. So when you have to think of like a partner, you have to think of yourself like literally getting into the character of a Yoda, right? So you're really getting into that character when you're in your work, right? And why is it so important? Because you're able to when you're in that character, when you're in that zone, when you're in that mental space, you're actually able to influence the people around you, you know, in a positive way. You're able to inspire them. You know, people start to trust you. They feel that there is somebody who's there to guide me. You know, it's a very interesting world. You know, and I think every individual is capable of getting into the zone, right? Personally speaking, I've practiced this a lot without really watching Star Wars. I mean, there's always a character, right? Somewhere or the other. And, you know, as consultants or people who are in the consulting profession where we're looking to advise clients, so clients are also looking for a Yoda. Please remember that. You know, they're not looking for a Luke. They're not looking for a somebody who's going to be really learning what needs to be done. You know, what they want is a Yoda, right? And if they can find the Yoda, they'd like to be the Luke. You know, they'd like to be the Arjun, and they're looking for a Krishna. If you really put it in that context. So unless and only you think of yourself like one, and it doesn't matter what age stage of your life you are, it doesn't matter at all. We've all been Yodas in school, you know, so there are a bunch of friends who always look up to you for advice, help, you know, broken relationships, ye ho gaya, wo ho gaya, you know, and suddenly you become the Yoda, right? Okay, let me try and help. You know, let me try and guide you. Let me tell you more about life. Let me tell you more about philosophy. Let me tell you, provide clarity and help navigate ambiguity, emotions, you know, complex client situations, and help provide a clear path to follow, right? So stuff on the left hand side. And of course, partners are expected to think very deeply about what it takes to really run a complex organization, but from the top, right? So that's something which is very important to understand. A lot of times we think organizations are run from the bottom. Well, there are people at the bottom who are running, but organizations are really being run from the top. All the decision making is happening at the top level, right? So once the top decides this needs to be done, people start running in that direction. So if you ever want to be a leader, if you ever want to be in a position where you can advise and inspire a client to follow a certain direction, you have to learn to think very deeply about what it takes to run a complex organization. I'm only talking about thinking deeply, right? I'm not even asking you that you know everything about everything. That's not possible, humanly possible, right? But if you have enough interest in getting to know what goes in the mind of a CEO, what goes in the mind of a founder, if you can empathize with their pain points in life, you know, if you can empathize how complex their business operation is, and you are able to really think deeply about it, no matter what the topic is. So some people think that कि मेरे को तो मार्केटिंग समझ आता है, तो स्ट्रेटजी मैं कैसे एडवाइस दे सकता हूँ, या मुझे स्ट्रेटजी समझ आता है बट फाइनेंस तो कंप्लीटली गोज ओवर माय हेड, और समबडी सेज मुझे फाइनेंस समझ आता है बट डिजाइन के बारे में मैं कैसे बात करूँ, somebody says मुझे डिजाइन समझ आता है तो but I can't talk about content. So when you're a Yoda, you just know all, right? And even if you don't know all, right, so you really trust your instinct, you trust your gut, you trust your intuition, right? And it's really a mindset issue, to be very honest. It's not an experience issue, it's not even a capability issue, it's not a skill issue, it's just a mindset issue. Please remember that whenever clients are looking to bring you on board, they're not looking for someone who's an amateur, who's really learning how things are going to work. They're looking for someone who will from day one say that अब आपको चिंता करने की जरूरत नहीं है, I will tell you how you should operate, right? And then they'll work towards it to make sure that you're providing the right kind of guidance. Now, you're also expected to provide a lot of inspiring leadership to the project, be it to the client teams or to your own teams. Right. So inspiring leadership is very, very important. You have to show new direction sometimes, so people get stuck. Client also gets stuck, right? But your teams can also get stuck. So you have to sort of, again, clear the muck, show them a new path, a better path. And that's why as a Yoda, you're also constantly learning, you're always looking to upskill yourself, because at the end of the day, you're someone who's going to be depended upon. Right. So you want to be in that zone. And let me tell you, if any one of you has ever aspired that you want to be someone who's at the top of his or her game and wants to guide others, as a consultant, you will have to imagine yourself like a partner. Doesn't mean whether you're an associate consultant or you're a manager. It doesn't matter at all. It's just a mindset issue to a large extent, right? So, you have a question.
Saurabh, my question was that, see, I get confident, you mentioned that if a client asks something, then based on certain, points, you can tell them, even you may not be the master of that domain. One question which I'm not able to deal with is when clients ask me something and I, give them some recommendation. If it is with you, they don't cross question you, but they cross question me sometimes. They say, have you ever worked on an assignment like that before? Or have you ever worked with another client which has faced a similar problem? There, I'm not able to answer because I do not have that experience which you may have, and you may, give a case study and say, yes, I've worked with a client in the past and we've done something similar. So you did mention that it is not a question of experience per se, but then how to handle that where the client does not look at you like they would see a partner. It could be because of the age, it could be because of the years of experience, because they see maturity in a partner, whereas in an engagement manager or consultant, they may look at them, okay, these are people who can answer us, but then they sometimes cross question and ask, have you worked on a similar kind of a problem before? How do I deal with that?
So, Somil, I can talk anecdotally, right? So about your question. So BOD was started in 2008, 14 years ago. I was 26 at that point, right? It was the first time I was ever doing consulting. Had no prior consulting experience per se. And when I was meeting clients, I was still wearing the Yoda hat. And so there was no legacy of experience or expertise or whether I've worked on this case study. And this question that you're saying has been asked to me various times. And if the answer to that is no, I just say no. So have you worked on a case like this? No. People are sometimes surprised with your confidence. How confident can you be when you say no? Right. And so, but how sure are you that you can do this? Absolutely sure. Right. And there's absolutely no ambiguity because consulting, again, if I have to give you a standard answer, is very process-based. It's really not knowledge-based. It's process-based. right? There is a process to how you solve problems. There is a process to how you manage execution, right? And if you've done that many times or a few times, or you think you're good at it, you just express your confidence. That's it, right? Again, please understand, when people are asking you this question, have you done something like this before? They're not trying to really find the answer to that. They're trying to find if you are confident of solving their problem. It's not practically possible for any human being, even me, to have worked with every type of client industry case, every type of situation, every type of function, every type of problem. Not possible. Right? So they're looking at confidence. Are you confident of doing it? And if your answer is no, but I'm very confident of solving this because I have a process to do it and I've done it many times, they'll start trusting you. At best, they might say कि ठीक है थोड़ा सा discount दे दो, but trust तो कर लेंगे. Sachin, you have a point to make? Question?
Yeah. So just sharing my experience. So when it comes to design, so I'm not the best person to answer or give recommendations. But whenever a client asks me regarding content or design, so I just very confidently give my viewpoint. Because if I say that I'll ask Saurabh sir or I'll check with Kabir or Divya, so the client will not gain confidence.
Cannot trust you.
Yeah.
And here it's not a question of whether your point of view is right or wrong, so eventually the right decision will get made irrespectively, right? But it's about coming across as very, very sure, right, about what you're really proposing. And of course, one can practice. So it's not to say that you can't practice this approach. Yeah. Atul, are you trying to say something?
So I'm just putting on the table a slightly contrarian view to what you have just
Sure.
put out on the slide.
Sure.
Many years back, I happened to read a book called Maverick.
Mhm.
It is about a guy called Ricardo Semler,
Mhm.
who ran a company in Brazil called Semco,
Okay.
and how he inherited that company, which was in a total mess. And he realized that the people have to be empowered completely. The workers then started deciding how many hours a week they will work, how much they will produce. And he got them all together away from unionism and trouble. So it was a very contra thing to what a leader or a partner would be thinking like. And I think to all of you who have not read this book, I think you need to read it. It's an amazing insight into another side, a different part of the whole story,
Yeah, I mean, there are various ways of governing an organization, and and that's absolutely fine. But I also feel that a lot of people who are able to think like a partner are also they try to read a lot. They try to stay updated quite a bit. They're able to connect the dots, quite nicely most of the time. But I think it's really first to start with a mindset issue. Then age, experience, capability, skills, and whether you've done this kind of work before or not. So let me take you through 5 key tenets that I put together this afternoon for you. And after a lot of reflection and thinking, I felt what could be some of the things which really you could remember. And the first is that when you think like a partner, you develop a very high quotient for leadership empathy, right? So you're very high on leadership empathy. What is leadership empathy? Remember that as a partner, you're expected to be dealing with leaders. You're working with leaders. You're partnering with leaders. You're working on with a client who's a CXO or a founder or a business head. Unless and only you empathize with their leadership challenges, you're not really thinking like a partner, right? And we all know who our leaders are, so who our client leaders are. So you're all working with one leader or the other, and you have to get into that mind space where you are literally able to get into their shoes, right? So what does a leader bother about? What is he or she bothered about? Is it bothered about profit? Is it bothered about growth? Is it about managing expectations of his or her own leaders? Is it bothered about his image, from a leadership perspective? What is that pain he or she is looking to really solve? Right. So when you think like a partner, you're high on leadership empathy. You're not just thinking, what is the deliverable I have to make? What is the presentation I have to deliver? So when you're still thinking like a manager or a consultant or a designer, the problem is that you're so obsessed about your own deliverable that you're only thinking about ticking it off. I have to make a solid presentation. I have to influence the person in front of me, and eventually I have to tick this off because I have to move on to the next. But when you're thinking like a partner, while you still want to do all that, you're really trying to absorb the real emotions of your client at the time he or she comes up, which means you first start by being a good listener. I mean, you have a plan which you want to deliver, but you really start with listening first. So how are you feeling today? What are you doing? What is your biggest pain point? So Sachin, if you've noticed, we do these morning review calls with one of our clients. Have you ever seen me getting into the business discussions right away?
No.
So what do I do? What do I do in the first 15 minutes?
So wins or what would happen over the previous week?
घर पे सब कैसे हैं?
Yeah.
What is the big pain point? What is the best news you had? You're really trying to connect with that person's emotions before you start discussing work, right? By connecting your circuit with the emotions of a leader, after that, when you start solving their problems, number one, they are also then connected to you because they start trusting you. They feel that you understand them, you understand their pain points, right? So that's the first key tenet when you are expected to think like a partner. Anybody who has any thoughts, just feel free to get in. We'll discuss 5 of these. This is the first one. Any experience you want to share, please feel free to do that as well. Okay.
Mona has been putting messages in the chat.
I don't know why I'm not able to see them. Can I wait, let me just stop sharing and oh, now I see them. So when I share, I can't see. Oh, wow. Okay. I feel in that case, deliverables become very easy to do. It's difficult to achieve the issues. The deliverables seem like a cakewalk. Very well said, Sona. Yeah, very well put out there. So it becomes a lot more easier for sure. Right. What else is there? Think any of those? Yes. Yeah. Anybody else who has a thought? Okay. Give me a second. How do I connect back to the presentation? Okay, going forward, I'm just going to request, if the comments can be read, because it seems to be a problem with Zoom. And I'm just not able to now find my screen. Apologies, yeah. Screen visible again?
Yeah.
The wrong one, sorry.
That started screen sharing.
Oh, baap re. The deck is lost. Opening again and then sharing again.
It's visible now.
Yeah, visible again. Okay, yeah. So we were on the first tenet, and I'll request if maybe the chats can be shared with me. Okay, the second tenet which I want to share is, when you think like a partner, you are consciously eager. Both the words are important, consciously and eager, right? So there's a certain amount of positive anxiety. There is a certain amount of eagerness, but you're doing it in a very aware way. You're like constantly thinking about how do I find the next significant breakthrough for the client? And remember, this is one of the things that you get really trusted for or valued for. Remember that clients are trying to solve real problems. They have pain points, which you're able to empathize with if you follow the first tenet. And the second tenet is that if you're able to understand the pain points and you're working to solve them, one of the things you can do is, okay, usual run of the mill, usual work, ye to karna hi hai, the tick marks. And the other is, I think it's been a while since I gave a breakthrough. ऐसा क्या कर सकते हैं कि एकदम रास्ता खुल जाए, एकदम कुछ एक्साइटमेंट आ जाए, क्लाइंट की लाइफ में, एंड सडनली जो स्टिकी पेन पॉइंट्स है वो सॉल्व होने लग जाए, सो यू वांट टू बी समवेयर इन दैट जोन वेयर you are consciously eager to find significant breakthroughs, for a client. And so that, I think, has been a very successful tenet, at least personally for me. Because when I'm always thinking about what is the next breakthrough, where do I create a difference, what can be something really significant, it makes me think, it makes me reflect, it makes me study, it makes me talk to the client and empathize even more, and then it's a lot more easier for me to create value, by thinking about a breakthrough which can really change the status quo. Because remember, we're all about trying to change the status quo, and sometimes जैसे बोलते हैं कि घी सीधी उंगली से नहीं निकलता है, right? So you have to go a little bit out of the box here. You have to try and find out, is there a better way to solve this problem? Can there be something which is totally out of the box, in terms of finding a solution? And that's what you really get valued for. That's really, in fact, one of the big roles of a partner. The third tenet is that when you're thinking like a partner, or when you think like a partner,
Sorry to interrupt. In the last point, Saurabh, can you share an example, like what kind of significant breakthroughs, like any anecdote or any example for any
sure,
client?
there'll be very many, but let me
Yeah,
try
yeah.
to relate to maybe some recent examples that we may have, many of us may have worked with or worked through, right? Um, so UX project, Jagmeet, or let's think of, let's say, some work that we did for Harappa.
Mhm.
I remember when we were working on the Harappa project, so I was really trying to empathize with what Pramath and Shreyasi shared. And their pain point, and that's leadership empathy, right? Their pain point was, we're trying to solve a very complex problem, but we're not able to define it very clearly to our audience. We were calling it things like soft skills and non-technical skills, or behavioral and cognitive skills, stuff which is very tough for people to remember, or too cliche. So behavioral non-cognitive was very challenging for people to recall. Soft skills was, अरे यार, soft skill तो मतलब कोई भी पढ़ाता है, शिव खेरा भी पढ़ाता है, right? So what is really special about it, कि, and but they were really doing something good, and that was a problem they came to us with, so it wasn't, please change our website, please change our branding, that's not how they really started a conversation, I remember. And I remember we were the first ones to give them the idea that if you really want to solve this problem, then you need to own this category. And you cannot own this category if you don't really define what these skills are. You're saying that you've got these 25 odd skills or 30 skills or whatever. And from there, so this idea itself was a breakthrough for them. कि quick category leadership हो सकती है in a subject like training and education, right? And then the whole concept around thrive skills as a concept, was really sold to them. Now, the moment this thought came in, it solved many problems for them. So not one problem, many solved problems. Whenever you have a significant breakthrough, many problems get solved. Right. That's one of the things about breakthroughs. And not only did they get a word which could describe what they were doing, but they could get a word that they could own up and really create a category out of it. It's like creating a category called washing powders. Right. And so they wanted to own and create Thrive skills. And then they went all out. If you see in all their communication even today, and they've scaled up, they've sold off to upgrade, but they haven't stopped using Thrive skills as a concept. So for us, I think the main trust we generated with Pramath in particular was because of this breakthrough. And then he created so many more opportunities for us as a result. And he felt we could do these breakthroughs. And then I remember immediately after that, he gave us an opportunity to work with a new DPS school, which was coming up. Sachin, you worked on it. And there again, we had a breakthrough. We came out with this idea of a whole child concept, right? And then that was implemented fairly successfully. I mean, still under implementation. So those are examples of breakthroughs, right? But breakthroughs can sometimes also be very unrelated to positioning and branding and things like that. Sometimes it's just about trying to think of let's say, Jagmeet, if you're trying to solve a very sticky personal problem, let's say for many people, weight can be a very sticky problem, that weight control nahi ho pata hai, right, in spite of the best efforts. And you meet many dietitians, nutritionists, and they all give their own recipe, own diet plan or something. But there is one person you meet who only observes you and figures out that, during the whole day, there is this one activity that you're doing, which seems to be the primary cause of your weight sustenance or weight gain. If you did not do this activity, and even if you retained everything else, you will start losing your weight. Now, that's a significant breakthrough. It's not a cliche solution. It's not another diet plan. A lot of management consultants can give plans. Okay, I have a plan for you, plan A, plan B, plan C, right? But very few have the ability to think of or really be so observant that they can actually identify a significant breakthrough.
Yeah, and 20% that can give the 80% result.
Exactly. कि एक कोई छोटी सी चीज change करना बहुत बड़ी नहीं, which can start changing everything else for you. It's similar to the Thrive skills idea, right? It gives you direction, it gives you clarity, it gives you vision, so. And as management consultants or as partners, it becomes one of the big things for us. I mean, we have designers in this meeting. A lot of times they've worked on these significant breakthroughs with their design. कि एक ऐसा कुछ डिजाइन सिस्टम क्रिएट कर दिया, एक लैंग्वेज क्रिएट कर दिया, या कुछ ऐसा ग्राफिक स्टाइल हो गया, या that suddenly the client feels like, okay, everything is sorted now. So it's to be able to think like that, ki, am I just producing a solution or am I looking to develop a breakthrough? So I remember, I don't know if Manish is there in this meeting or not, when we were working on the GAN dairy identity, we had this eureka moment, when this entire Gyan ka G just got connected like a stream of milk, and it was so easy to sell the whole idea. Or wo same concept Hindi mein bhi dikhta tha, English mein bhi dikhta tha. It was a breakthrough. And when you have a breakthrough, you just know it. I remember we also did that during the early learning village identity creation. I think Jagmeet, you were part of that. There were so many iterations happening, and suddenly there was this breakthrough. वो एक कॉन्सेप्ट निकाला था VB करके, WEEB. Divya, you were a very integral part of that and giving shape to that concept. Now that was a breakthrough that completely opened so many opportunities for the client. Divya, you recall that?
Hi, Saurabh.
Divya.
You were talking about?
VB.
Yeah, the ELV birds.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, Pankaj worked on them. I just helped him. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So, the idea was that entire thinking really opened up their mind in terms of, how a preschool could be completely reimagined, and it's for solutions like these that clients really hire us. If I were to tell you, so they hire us for the plans and they hire us for the strategies and a lot of things, but eventually these 1 2 3 significant breakthroughs which can really transform. So as a partner, if you can be really focused on uh, uh, creating these consciously, that कि हाँ कुछ ऐसा कुछ create करें यार कि game ही change हो जाए. When you start thinking that way, you have a far better impact in terms of what a partner can do, right? The third thing is, when you think like a partner, you're always pushing for structure and flow. That's something which I have practiced quite a bit. Whenever I'm talking to any one of you or even with a client, I try to see if can I create a storyboard. Can there be a theme? Can there be a structure? That people can, because people can think linearly. When you give them steps, when you give them a storyboard, people have seen movies, so they know what a good scene is, what a scene number 1 2 3 4 5 looks like, what feels like. And I think it's very important for each one of you to also think in terms of structure and flow. When you're constantly thinking and pushing for structure and flow, you start to actually think like a partner, because again, structure flow creates a certain uh, synergy in the minds of everyone कि हाँ कुछ सब कुछ connected लगता है, united लगता है, एक coherent thought समझ आना शुरू हो जाता है. ऐसा लगता है कि there is some deep level thinking which has gone into creating and building something, and at the end of the day, that really builds a lot of trust. So that's the third tenet which I think I could think of. But anybody who has an example to share, you could do that. But this is something that we try to practice quite a bit, at BOD. The fourth thing is, when you think like a partner, you are.
I think third miss हो गई ना?
नहीं, third miss नहीं हुई है.
हाँ मतलब. Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah, structure and flow. Yeah. No, that's okay. I'll just revise. One is, when you think like a partner, you're very high on leadership empathy. That means you are really able to understand pain points of a leader. When you think like a partner, you're consciously eager to find significant breakthroughs, which are somewhat linked to those pain points. When you think like a partner, you're always pushing for structure and flow. So whatever is getting presented, let's say you understood the pain point, you were able to think of a breakthrough solution, and then you were able to present that with a lot of structure and flow, that it was so compelling and believable that it actually gets accepted as a decision, and then you start implementing it, right? So structure and flow is very key, when you're thinking like a partner. And the other aspect is that, sometimes the storyboard is good, structure and flow is good, but we often see that, the work that we produce can seem very superficial. I'm not saying it always is, but it can seem very much at the level of width, surface level, जिसको बोलते हैं कि हाँ ideas हैं, बिल्कुल वही ideas हैं जो होने चाहिए, but it doesn't have the necessary depth. And a good partner, or someone who thinks like a partner, is always going to be striving or constantly striving for excellence and depth. So something which builds confidence, in anybody who's looking at it. Because at the end of the day, remember that we are responsible for influencing very important decisions in an organization, on the basis of which millions of dollars can be invested, or it could create a big social impact. Now, if your work is not backed by excellence and depth, so however good your structure and flow may be, maybe you created a breakthrough solution, but people won't accept it because it hadn't reached or touched that level of excellence and depth in terms of the analysis or the validations or the research, that it almost seems like कि यार ये तो थोड़ा superficial है. Remember that sometimes it's not so much about just telling what the truth is. It's about backing the truth. That makes people really accept the truth. It's about providing evidence, and that's where depth plays a very key role. That's where, even if you're designing a solution, you're thinking through it. You're not just supporting it with evidence, but you're thinking of every single statement that you make. You're breaking it down further, so going deeper and deeper. You're thinking about the implications of the choices that you're proposing. You're thinking about how this will get implemented. You're thinking about, is it even possible to implement this? So those, when you start thinking about those aspects of a business or of your recommendation or the solutions you're proposing, you suddenly are talking excellence in depth. You're not looking at a surface level idea, which, I mean, the difference between idea and a solution is depth, right? So, and if you're able to practice that, I think it has a massive impact on the confidence of a client. Yes, Sachin.
So this is usually done on the spot or as a pre-prep before meeting a client?
Yeah, it's not about on spot or prep work, right? It's about thinking, right? So, for example, if anything's Sachin comes in front of you, any presentation, doesn't matter who's making it. You could even be reading a news article.
Okay.
Like to read Business Standard or ET, and you see an article, and you see, यार ये article पढ़ के ये क्या लिखा है यार, ये कोई डेप्थ ही नहीं है यार, कुछ सोचा ही नहीं है, बस ऊपर ऊपर से लिख दिया. जैसे मान लो किसी ने एक स्टेटमेंट बोल दी कि यार देयर इज अ startup winter chal raha hai, there is no fundraising happening. Someone just makes a blank statement, right? क्योंकि कहाँ मैंने भी सुना था तो बोल दिया, right? Versus really knowing the depth of it. When you read that article, you figure out that this author has actually gone on to really support his or her hypothesis of why there's a startup winter or why not, and then that this is something where some deep level effort has gone. A partner will always be looking to identify things which have depth, and he or she will respect that, and he and she will encourage that, say that please can you go deeper, let's not do a surface level presentation, let's not just present some views about what you think is right or wrong, so can we go a bit deeper, can we support these views by whether it's data or research or implementation plans or how it might really emerge. It's almost like presenting a logo. So there are many designers, not in BOD of course, who if they have to present logos, they'll just present 5 logos in a screen, right? Option 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and maybe there is a winning logo there, but it won't get selected, at least not with our kind of clients. Right. But if you have a full story behind it, you've created a lot of depth around it, behind each concept, it will make people think that there is actually a lot of philosophy behind it. This can actually work for us. It's simple, but it has depth. Depth doesn't mean complex. Please understand. The ideas are still simple. So sometimes in our desire to impress people, we present complex ideas. There's no value of complex ideas. Absolutely meaningless. Right? Simple ideas, but backed by a lot of depth, backed by a lot of conviction. That is what a partner would always encourage. Striving for excellence and depth. Right? That's tenet 4. The 5th tenet and the last one is, when you think like a partner, you're deeply committed. Again, 2 words: deeply committed to be the client's trusted counsel. Right? So you're consciously making an effort that your client will see you as the go-to person whenever they get into a hole. Whenever, and it doesn't matter if it's related to your project. Sometimes they'll just still call you. And if you really want to know whether you're thinking like a partner and whether you're trusted like that, when clients start trusting you for things which are not even related to work, they call you up because they just think that you're thinking for them. They just think that they can trust you. They've started to believe in you. They've started to believe that you're the Yoda for them, that you will guide them through every problem in this world. Doesn't matter whether you can or you can't. Right? You can't be solving every problem for everyone. But if they start thinking of you like that, I think it's an extraordinary position to be in, right? So when you're seen as someone who's deeply committed to be the client's trusted counsel, it plays a huge role in you getting accepted, as a partner. Now, if you notice over here, none of these 5 tenets is to do with any tough, hard skills, right? So I'm not talking about selling a project. I'm not talking about problem solving skills, and I'm not talking about I mean, so many things which we call as technical competences, right? I'm only talking about things which actually might not take you too much effort to imbibe if you know what these things are. Right? Sometimes it's a question of awareness. कि अच्छा तो क्या करना पड़ेगा, तो ये करना पड़ेगा. It's as simple as that. And when you're doing some of these things and practicing it consistently, you start developing what I call as trust, right? That you are somebody who can really be depended upon, relied upon. And whether you're a partner in consulting profession or whether you're a leader, whether you're the CEO of a company, it's the same set of tenets, not significantly different from each other, right? It's just that in this case, because you are the Yoda, you are someone who's trying to be the Krishna to some Arjun. You need to start imbibing, you need to get into this character. And sometimes many years before you actually become one. I don't think at 26 I was pretending to be a Yoda. I just thought I'm a Yoda. How does it matter whether I had ears behind me or not? And what I'm trying to say is that you can do the same. What are you waiting for? You don't have to go all the way up to becoming 40 or 38 or 50 or 60 to become this trusted counsel. Right? You just have to start behaving and acting like one. Right? And that actually takes me to the last part of the presentation. I know we're running a little bit behind schedule here. But it's all about where you can start. Where can you really make a start, right? So let's start. The first thing, right? So Yoda says size matters not, right? Don't worry about it, right? Start to believe that you are the one, right? It's about confidence, right? It's not about size. It's about trusting your instinct. It's not about experience. It's not about skills. It's not about competences, right? It's just about the belief that you're good enough to be playing this role, right? Otherwise, don't get into consulting. I believe an associate consultant can also behave and act like a partner, an entry-level undergrad student. Right? We've all been in that situation in college and school where we've been the Yodas, right? And size doesn't matter. Sometimes we're beyond our age. The mental maturity is what really matters, right? So you start to believe that you are the one. So this is, of course, Luke being guided by his Krishna, right? The other thing is that you act, behave, and practice like one. If you want to think like a partner, you act, behave, and practice like one. Don't wait to become a partner. Don't wait for the designation. Don't wait for a formal promotion. Start doing it right now. So it's like Yoda says, do or do not, there's no try. Right? You can't say that I'm going to try to be a partner from tomorrow morning. Either you do or you don't. Right? So it's a psychological state of mind, right? So sometimes you have to get in front of the mirror and just pose like Yoda and say, today, I will act like a partner. And of course, you may not succeed, but how does it matter? Right? You just act. You just do it. Right? The third thing is trust your instinct more than your research. Right? So this is something which I've practiced a lot. It has worked wonders. And again, Yoda also says, luminous beings are we, not this crude matter. Right? So we already have so much insight and intelligence inside us. You have no idea. I mean, it's not a religious matter, but if you believe a little bit on the Hindu spirituality concept, right? So we are not born 30, 40 years ago. We've been on earth for I don't know how many centuries. We've just been taking rebirth. So there is a lot of stuff that you're carrying forward in your lives, right? And there's so much knowledge which is deeply embedded inside you. You just have to start trusting it. Sometimes we go too much into the books. We start to research too much research paper. We look for too much data. We get into analysis paralysis. I can tell you that the best solutions that I've ever created, the significant breakthroughs, have been when I've just opened a blank piece of paper and I start writing. Right? By the 15th or the 20th or the 30th minute, something comes out. Now, you may say it's some trick which I'm telling you, but anybody can do it. Trust me. Anybody can do it. But sometimes you have to start with a blank paper. If you start with too much data, it can hamper your ability to trust your instinct because you get constantly biased. You think that, oh, maybe I don't know. Maybe this research is accurate. Who knows what's accurate? What's accurate is probably deep inside you. Right? So luminous beings are we, not this crude matter, as Yoda says, right?
And I think this is also connected to what the discussion we were having about originality and newness, right? इट इज समथिंग कि जब आप बैठते हो आपके अंदर, लाइक यू सेड, इट्स डीपली एम्बेडेड इनसाइड यू। जो भी वो, इफ वी डिग डीप और ज्यादा हम अंदर जाते हैं और खोदते हैं, तो जैसे आई मेक अ रूल ऑफ टू सिट फॉर 60 मिनट्स, राइट? एंड इन द फर्स्ट 15-20 मिनट्स जो सुपरफिशियल नॉलेज होती है वो सब निकल जाती है, एंड देन यू स्टार्ट डिगिंग द गोल्ड, राइट? वहां पर वो आती है कि जैसे मुझे जब कोई लिस्टिकल या कोई आर्टिकल लिखना होता है, कुछ करना है, तो पहले 20 आइडियाज जस्ट लिख के काट दो। 21st आइडिया विल बी व्हाट इज योर ओन पर्सपेक्टिव, मतलब जो आपने लोगों का देखा है, सुना है, वो सब निकल जाता है, जो आपके अंदर है वो वहां पर आता है। आई थिंक सेम गोज फॉर दिस रिसर्च एंड thinking as well.
Totally agree with you. So if you want to create those significant breakthroughs, they're going to come from your tacit experience, stuff which is deeply embedded inside. After that, you can do research to validate or invalidate. Uske baad depth create kar lena. Right? Yeah, sorry, somebody speaking.
Yeah, I was saying that Archimedes और जो न्यूटन का भी एग्जांपल हम देखते हैं, so they did everything they wanted to while they were trying to discover what they were trying to, but the moment they rested, and then was a time they could make that breakthrough, both with Archimedes and Newton. So that's a story, I don't know, but it signifies something that instinct plays a lot of role in finding breakthroughs.
I totally agree. There is so much truth and so much knowledge deeply embedded inside us, but we depend so much on the outside. That somebody will tell us the truth. Research is like somebody will tell us the truth. And instinct is like, I know the truth, right? I just need to pause. I just need to reflect. I just need to rest, as you said, right? I just need to be silent. I need to open a blank piece of paper. I don't want to start with, hundreds and thousands of pages of research. So that I think is a very important starting point, right? So I said, where can you start? This is where you can start, right? Trusting your instinct a lot more. The last point, last but not the least, and this is very, very important, and this is something which I see in a lot of people, not necessarily in BOD, but in general, when they feel like they're able to do many of these things which I'm talking about, right? तो थोड़ा arrogance आना शुरू हो जाता है. Right. So Yoda says a JD uses the force for knowledge and defense, never for attack. Right. And it's very important that when you're getting into that state of mind where you're able to come out with these significant breakthroughs, when you think that you're actually solving problems in a very different way, you're able to lead in a very different way, you're able to inspire, you're able to talk well, you're able to influence decision makers, there is a very good possibility that you get a little bit arrogant about your special abilities. Right. So this is something that you have to be very conscious of. It's a good starting point. And many of us have these special talents, right? So it's just about recognizing them, using them for good, using them to help our clients and if required for our defense, but not for attacking, not for showing one-upmanship or showing that why you're so special and the rest of the world is an idiot. So that's not what you do with your knowledge. That's not what you do with your special abilities. So if you really want to be that Yoda, you got to be making sure that you have to move that. It's basically that journey from being a JD to a Yoda, if you really ask me, right? So this journey of becoming a partner, more in the mindset, more in the think like a partner frame of reference. So in a summary, this is where we are. So where can you start? So you start to believe that you are the one. That's step number one, right? Nobody can stop you from believing. Act, behave, and practice like one, right? Trust your instinct more than your research, and never be arrogant about your special abilities, right? So I think that's really a summary of what I wanted to put out today. Happy to answer any questions or thoughts or experiences that you'd like to share.
I have just one example anecdote to share, a story for this. So I presented a UX strategy for one of the client, grade up के लिए UX strategy दी थी. तो एक वीक का टाइम था मेरे पास. the whole 4, 5, 6 days मेरे से कुछ क्रैक नहीं हुआ. All I was into the general stuff जो होती है UX, यूजर जर्नीज बना दी, पर्सोनास बना दी, बट वही उसमें मुझे वही एक वो जो एक मैजिक मिस लग रहा था. और I was very nervous because it was the first time that I had to present it directly to the founders, and it was a big startup, right? IIT के graduated हैं वो founders हैं, उनको directly present करना. So I was very nervous, and इतना मुझे पता चल गया था अगर थोड़ा mediocre लेकर जाएंगे तो वो फिर वहीं उठ के चले जाएं, ऐसा मतलब ऐसे thoughts आते हैं, right? So I really wanted to put that magic. और तो ऑन द वेरी 6th डे मतलब मैंने ऑलरेडी सौरभ को दिखा दी थी प्रेजेंटेशन. सौरभ ने ये बोला था कि थोड़ी डेप्थ मिसिंग है, वो वाली चीज़ है, बट वी कैन गो अहेड, मतलब वी कैन प्रेजेंट एंड देन वी कैन मूव वर्क ऑन इट लेटर. बट रात को फिर मैं पूरी रात जागा उसमें, 3-4 बज गए. और उस टाइम मुझे अचानक से क्रैक हुआ कि वो जो 2 मैंने पढ़े हुए थे लॉज, जो उसमें फॉग का बिहेवियर मॉडल था और मॉडल था, राइट? यस, हुक मॉडल प्लस फॉग का बिहेवियर, तो दोनों को अलग अलग देखा हुआ था. बट जस्ट सडनली एक आइडिया आया, क्रेजी आइडिया, कि व्हाई डोंट, आई थिंक इनको अगर हम कनेक्ट कर दें तो कुछ एक तीसरी नई चीज ही बन जाती है, राइट? एंड और काफी उसके एग्जांपल सेट हो गए यूएक्स बिहेवियर के अंदर. और वो जो एक पर्टिकुलर चीज जो बनी, आई थिंक दैट रियली एडेड दैट मैजिक. और वो चीज जब मैं प्रेजेंट कर रहा तब भी दिख रहा था. आई जस्ट quickly went through the initial slides. They were okay maybe, but ये वाला part जब आया, then they were like really very attentive, and उन्हें भी I can see in their eyes कि उन्हें भी लगा कि this is something that we should know. And उन्होंने भी accept किया कि although we have seen Fox model और Hook model का पता भी था, हमें किया था, but this is something truly unique जो breakthrough की बात हो रही है कि. and that is the one present, मतलब एक जो मुझे एक्सपीरियंस याद आ रहा है जहाँ पर ये सारे टेनेट्स और ये जो समरी थी, it all came together for me कि I think I checked all the boxes, and हमेशा मुझे वो याद रहती है. And I think that was for me personally is one work that I'm really proud of.
Very interesting story, Jagmeet. How old were you back then?
I was 26, I think.
26 is the magic age, right?
हाँ, 5 साल पहले की बात है.
So, does that answer your question? I think you were also there at that time on the project, if I'm not wrong.
Swami was there.
Right.
उसका पहला दूसरा ही था, I think, right?
Yes.
Right. And it's not like Jagmeet had done too many UX projects, and he was not scared after that to present to IITians or whoever they are. I've never been scared of anyone. I mean, why?
I have a similar story of the same project.
How about?
So what had happened was that the project had ended, and we had to go for the final handover presentation, where there was a team of like for the branding work and the strategy work which was done. And I was traveling with Saurabh for that presentation, and they had prepared a lot. मतलब उन्होंने camera set up किया था, because they were like, we'll record this so that in future if anyone new joins, they get an idea. And from what I recall on that day, there were 2 meetings. One was for the entire organization, and one was just for the creative team, the writers and designers. And one for entire organization, that was delivered by Saurabh. And for the writers and designers, I was told that I have to lead it. And the thing is that it was sort of my first project, जिसमें branding का किया था. And I had no clue, and I was like completely taken aback because I had not prepared it all. And there was a camera that they had set up, and they were looking at me like an expert who knows everything. So I remember that I had half an hour time, and their branding manager was more scared than I was, because he was like, you are going to present to my team, and if we falter, so then it comes to both of us, that we both are not experienced. So I remember patching in Shreya at that time, and that was my first like crash course on design, where she taught me कि color palette ये होता है, primary का ये मतलब होता है, secondary का मतलब ये होता है, आपसे कोई ये पूछे तो उसका ये आंसर देना. And that was how I learned like कि अच्छा ऐसे training देना है. And then like I believed in myself at that time कि ठीक है, now I've imbibed and now I'll be able to answer. And it also reached a point where the designers and their team, they also started supporting me. So they were like, yes, you are telling, आप ठीक बोल रहे हो, ऐसे ही होता है, ऐसे ही होता है. So I think that common sense plus instinct plus getting all of those things together, that made me handle that situation. Otherwise, I would have left the office there. Ki I won't be able to do it, and we may even postpone it to some other day. But that half an hour where I behaved like Shreya in that sense. I tried to behave that I am the lead designer. So I tried to imbibe कि उसने जैसे सिखाया, I tried to just speak her language. But I also believed in it and it worked. But that is one. After that, I haven't felt the fear of presenting, because that was the highlight. कि कुछ भी नहीं आता and एकदम से there's a camera in front of you and you have to give a training. But I was able to sort of maneuver it.
And great sharing again, Somil. Atul, you have something to share.
This is about this point about trusting instinct more than research, and it goes back in time to my Tata consultancy days. So every year we used to do the employee satisfaction survey. Now, being a tech company, no one used to tell you the truth in an online survey, because they would always be scared कि पता लगेगा किसने क्या लिखा है. So those massive surveys were really a waste of time and money. And one day I was actually standing in the loo with a friend of mine. And suddenly I just looked at him and I said, "Ki boss, I think तुम और मैं जैसे यहाँ बात करते हैं ना लू में, the real problems will be found only when people talk in the loo and gossip." So we actually put a team together in 14 offices. We had people who used to keep going to the loo to overhear people, क्या बोल रहे हैं. We discovered about 8 issues which had not come out in the survey. And we started the communication campaign. The policies were changed. Some cases, we had meetings with HR and all that. Policies were changed to address those issues which were being raised. And every policy change was announced through a poster which was strategically placed in the loo itself and nowhere else. And one of these guys started not a blog that time, but he used to write a regular column called Loo Talk. So interesting. Instinct is what came.
It's very fascinating. Very fascinating. No, thanks for sharing that experience. Talk is interesting. Yeah. No, but great. So, anybody else who has anything to share before we wrap up? I know we are behind schedule, but anyone would like
I
to
have I have one experience.
Yeah.
So I learned so I learned how to present and tell stories. I really refined that craft when I came to BOD, and वो microlit के time से चालू हुआ था, and it went on successfully for a very long time. बट एक जो क्लाइंट था पीएम म्यूजियम, उसमें बहुत टाइम तक सक्सेस मिला ही नहीं था हमें. बट ये 5 पॉइंट्स जो थे वो मेरे को दिख गए उसमें. एंड द most relatable point was you empathize with the client and with the project. So the deputy director, I guess, the IAS officer, he told me and Nikita 5 years before a meeting that the whole committee is going to be there, और अभी देखो आपको मजा कैसे आता है. So it was kind of a challenge, and I was taken aback, obviously, because इतने बड़े लोग होंगे, उनके सामने क्या बोलेंगे. But then I realized कि यार कोई ना कोई तो बड़ा होगा ही तुमसे. तुम हमेशा सबको बड़ा मानते रहोगे, तुम कभी बड़े होने नहीं वाले फिर. तो and I think one of the points that really gives us the confidence that we don't cheat on our work. We really do our work properly, and even if it goes very flop, we don't come out with a lesser confidence because we know that we have done our work. तो उस टाइम पे none of the identity options got selected, but we created an impression where we gave guarantee to the committee, I guess, that we are working hard and we are really eager to hear what you have to say so that we can create a constructive feedback. And then all these members gave their feedbacks, and I think based on that feedback we built a brief for us, a new brief. And there was a very simple identity option. जैसे PM Museum में जो हमने logo बनाया है, it's not very creative, but it's correct. And I think a very important point that many creators forget, that you don't have to create a beautiful option, you have to create an option that is correct. और वो हम build कर पाए, and that is because we humbled. So we were we were humble enough to listen, we were eager enough to listen, and हमको empathize करना था so that we can create a solution जिसे सिर्फ मतलब I think हमने ये नहीं सोचा कि बस प्रोजेक्ट कंप्लीट करना है, हमने ये सोचा कि हमें ऐसा कुछ क्रिएट करना है of which we'll be proud in a long term. And I think that presentation was not a typical success in typical terms because nothing got finalized, but the whole process got finalized only after 2 presentations after that. So हाँ वो experience था मेरा.
Oh, great experience. And eventually the breakthrough was very simple, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
So, but it was only possible when you were able to really empathize and behave like someone who knows what he or she is doing.
Yeah.
Because then they were not trusting us. In fact, कितनी बार म्यूजियम में उन्होंने हमें सुनाया, तुम लोग तो बच्चे हो, तुम्हारी टीम में सारे हैं. Nikita is here. She was not trusted for so long, but I think the fact that she behaved like a partner throughout, I think eventually made people trust her. And the same with Atishay in the current role. So it's fascinating, how sometimes people who are so senior to us in designation roles, profiles, authority, suddenly start to eat from your hands. I was with Atishay 2 days back at the PM Museum. Was it yesterday? I think, yeah. And Atishay was making a presentation to the director, who again is a hi-fi, IAS officer. And when this new director came in about a couple of months ago, he looked at us disdainfully. Matlab ki izzat hi nahi thi koi hamari.
Yeah.
In yesterday's presentation, we were the only ones presenting, and we were the only one giving ideas on how they need to market the museum. And he was like listening very intently. So and that's because if you've been given this role, then you be the Yoda, no? So it doesn't matter how old you are, So I think that's the main message which I wanted to sort of give out today. And somewhere down the line, you'll also be expected to pass on this message to people who are junior to you. So I mean, it's the role between Yoda and JD, or the role between Krishna and Arjun, and someday the Arjun has to become the Krishna.
Right?
So,
and I think Saurabh, when you said that you have to believe that you are the Yoda, I don't think there is any other option. Either you believe and you do it, या फिर तुम time waste कर रहे हो. There is no other option.
So either you do it or you don't. There's no try. I will try to be a Yoda and try to convince people that I'm the Yoda. You just are Yoda. I am Yoda. That's how you think of yourself. That's how even in Kung Fu Panda, चाहे कोई भी कुछ भी देख लो आप, जब तक अपने पे भरोसा नहीं होगा तो हारते रहोगे. You'll keep getting massacred. And the day you believe in yourself, the whole world is scared of you. Then यार ये आदमी तो खतरनाक है, इसको अपने ऊपर भरोसा है, कुछ भी कर सकता है. Right, so that's what you want to be. I mean, don't literally mean admi in a sexist way, but the whole idea is that you want to be so sure of yourself. That I know it, I can do it. Nobody can stop me from becoming successful, and it doesn't matter how old I am. I just know my work, and I know its worth. Now I'm going to defend it, and I can die defending it, but I will not stop being a Yoda. I think that's the key message to conclude our session. So thank you so much for joining in. And I hope we're going to take back some things from here. But it's been a pleasure interacting with you all. I had some great memories of recalling some amazing things that we've done at BOD. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.